Hey folks, Mike Schrampke with Larry Stove Sand Equipment, America's largest selling Coyote dealer. Today is October 8th, 2024, and that means, well, it means many things to many different people, but one thing is we're solidly into fall. I thought I'd go over some thoughts and some hints and some suggestions, things like that, requirements of maintenance on a typical Coyote tractor. This will apply to any brand, so if you were unfortunate enough to get stuck with a different brand of tractor, this video is still for you. Maintenance is maintenance. Let's take a look at the maintenance that I would recommend doing in the fall on a Coyote tractor. First off, let's talk about the dreaded owner's manuals. Now, if you're using these to boost up a short leg on a dining room table, pull it out and look at it. Sometimes it might be for the first time. You might have owned the tractor for 5 years and it's the first time you've actually looked at these. So I'm telling you, it's a plethora of information. There will be a lot of stuff in here you didn't know. There might be even stuff in here that would actually make your operation of the tractor easier or more enjoyable. There's always something to find on these. Your tractor has one, your loader has one. If you got a backhoe or a mid-mount mower, each one has its own owner's manual, and they're actually very helpful. The first thing you'd want to spend some time is to give the tractor a real solid inspection, just a visual, and the best way to start is washing it. It's worked hard for the whole year and it deserves a good bath. It deserves to have a Hollywood buff and shine, you know, take it to the spa. And that'll give you a chance to actually see stuff up close and slowly at a pace that, you might notice something. Check all of the hoses, belts, fan belts, hydraulic fittings, and this will take a while. It's got miles and miles of hydraulic hose, fuel lines, anything that carries fluid or lubrication. Check for solid electrical connections. All of these things, you now have a moment. You now have the time to attend to them. If you've had a hydraulic leak and it's not been terrible, but it's been annoying, now's the time to do it. You don't want to mess with it next spring. You know, if your tractor's more than a few years old, it's going to need a hydraulic hose or two replaced because it's sun cracked or, you scraped it on a tree or something like that. Now's the time for that. Your tractor has an electrical system. Whether it's a mechanically fuel injected engine or whether it's a computer controlled engine, it has electronics. And what is the main enemy to tractor electronics? Rodents. A month doesn't go by that we don't have somebody call and say they had a mouse infestation or a bird infestation, rats, whatever, squirrels. And it can do as little as biting through a couple of wires, all the way up to biting through and shorting out the entire ECU, the computer system. Or biting through, chewing everything up, and when you turn the key on, a fire starts and burns down the barn. That happened last year to one of our customers. Next, I think I would check all the screens and filters. The radiator is made up of fins. You all know what it looks like. You'd want to use a low pressure air hose and spray from the inside out, and or garden hose. Nothing high pressure, no pressure washer, a garden hose inside out, and you'd be surprised how much debris and how much gunk will come out of that, and that's good for the tractor. Same goes for the hydraulic cooler if it has one, and transmission cooler if it has one, air conditioning, condenser and stuff if it's a cab. So make sure all those fins are clean. Some thoughts on who's going to do the maintenance on the tractor. Of course, you can have the dealer do it. You can bring it to the dealer. If the dealer's like us, you can also have the machine serviced in the field. We charge a couple dollars for the transportation and the time for the technicians to be in the truck. Or you can do it yourself. You can service it yourself, or you can have the dealer service it, and it will not void the warranty. It won't affect the warranty in any way. Coyote does not require you to use Coyote products, for example, oil. Coyote lube also comes in 5-gallon jugs too. And that's fine. You can come to the dealership and you can buy your maintenance stuff here. We're not any higher than anybody else, but if you're 100 miles away from us, or we just sold one last week to a fella in Montana. He won't be back to buy his oil and oil filters from us. Now, if you come to us, tell us how many hours are on the tractor, and we'll set you up with whatever you need. If it's a 50-hour kit, 200-hour kit, 400-hour kit, whatever, it'll have all of the filters and the fluids that you need to do whatever servicing that is, and it's really convenient. You know you bought the right stuff. So might consider that. Make a hard and fast rule around your property that anytime the hood gets opened, which requires the loader to go up, the loader gets braced. There is a lock on the loader control on the joystick. It's not to be relied on. It's a simple mechanical lock. It's not this. This is something that if somebody comes by and touches the joystick, which would of course drop the loader, it would cut you in half and you'd be dead, and dead is bad. Here's something that's commonly missed. If you're doing your own oil change, you'll notice the sump, or as some people would call it, the oil pan, has 2 drain plugs. And the reason is the front drive shaft goes right through the middle of the sump. Here's a question. How often do you lubricate the loader grease fittings? Every 10 hours. I know, right? That's way more often than I would have expected. In fact, the owner's manual in the loader says every day or 10 hours. The rest of the tractor, the fittings are every 50 hours. Get yourself a good quality grease gun, preferably, in my opinion, a battery-powered one. And it doesn't matter what brand. Whatever brand of power tools you have batteries for, buy that brand. I find that having a power grease gun will keep you from getting lazy or getting in a hurry and saying, I'll grease it tomorrow. And speaking of that, I highly recommend that you get a Lock and Lube. Lock and Lube's a name brand. It's like Kleenex, but they are the best. In fact, Lock and Lube even makes, if you're not going to get a power gun, get this one if you don't have a grease gun. Lock and Lube makes a crank type, but the coupler thing on it is wonderful. You just go in, you squeeze, you go in and let go, and it jaws lock on there, and you lube and then take it off. You'll thank yourself. Go around to all the unpainted metal anywhere on the tractor. Take a rag and put a thin coat of oil on it. There's a lot of places on a tractor that can get surface rust. It doesn't ultimately affect the machine, the performance, but it doesn't look nice either. And it just takes a few minutes just to wipe it around with some oil. You're gonna want to use the owner's manual to learn where all the grease fittings are, because they're everywhere. So everybody know when you check the hydraulic fluid on the tractor that all the implements need to be down, and whether it is a 3-point, the loader, if it's a backhoe, everything needs to be down so that there's no pressure in the system. That is when you check the hydraulic fluid. When you pull the dipstick, especially when you have fresh hydraulic fluid in there, it's going to be almost impossible to check its, if you're half blind like me, it's really hard to see. I highly recommend taking a paint pen or spray paint or dip it in a can and paint the dipstick. I did white on one side, black on the other side, and when you stick it and pull it out, it'll be very easy to see. Chances are the fuel that you buy, if it's from a reputable place, a name brand if you will, it probably has been winterized as winter approaches, but why risk it? I would get some diesel fuel stabilizer and toss a capful in there and let the tractor run for 10 minutes to make sure it gets up into the system. It does a couple of things. It keeps the fuel from turning bad. Did you know that there's a nasty bacteria that people refer to as a diesel bug? Yeah, and it's a thing. We have had customers that maybe haven't started their tractor in a year, and the injection system gets fouled, and it's because the diesel fuel was eaten by these nasty ass bacterias. So I would use a stabilizer, and the other thing it does is if you do start the tractor when it's freezing, the water that is naturally part of diesel fuel won't have frozen. Here's a couple of ifs. If you live somewhere that the weather gets below freezing, which is everywhere, and you have a tractor with a clutch, when it's cold and you're not driving it, go ahead and hang that clutch pedal using this lock right here. What it does is it keeps the clutch and the pressure plate apart, and any any condensation, any water, any whatever, that it keeps the clutch and pressure plate from freezing together, which is just frustrating as heck. So do that. Did you know that your brake pedal will become sloppy and will need to be adjusted? And when you start feeling a lot of slop, it's very simple. The directions are in the owner's manual. It's just a couple of jam nuts. It's, you turn it until you like the feel, and then you'll relock the jam nuts. It's that easy. Do it though, because things like that, if you don't do them, after a while, your tractor's just not fun to drive anymore. The Coyote owner's manual even has directions on how to adjust the toe-in camber for, a front-end alignment, basically, because your tractor will eventually start tracking funny. Here's another helpful hint. When you do your maintenance and you change a filter, fuel filter, motor oil filter, hydraulic filter, whatever, write the date and the hours right on the filter. Check your air filter, pull that off, and when it's time to buy an air filter, because you can clean these several times, air hose them from the inside out with low pressure, and start by banging them on the sidewalk, and you can get a lot of dirt out, but eventually you have to replace it. So when you replace it, your tractor may have a single canister like this, or it may have a double air cleaner. For example, Coyote CK Series SEs have a double air cleaner, so you need to know what you got. Here's an absolute have-to that you got to get in the habit of doing if you don't do it already, and that's to check the torque on certain bolts on your tractor. Because a tractor's under tremendous torque and strain, vibration, it's working all the time, things come loose. And the stuff that comes loose that you really don't want to come loose would be the loader, for example, the lug nuts, for example, and yes, wheels can fall off of a tractor if nobody ever checks the lugs. Draw straight lines from the lug to the wheel, lug to the wheel. That way you can walk by the tractor and see if anything moved. Same goes here. You can walk by the tractor and just eyeball, and if those lines don't line up, then clearly it has become loose. So do that. If you have a cab tractor, there's just a couple of things that you need to do. One, don't forget it has a cabin air filtration system which keeps the nasties, the pollen, the dust, and everything from coming inside the cab and getting you, which is why you bought a cab tractor in the first place. Here's the most important thing if you have a cab tractor. You must, underline must, run the air conditioner at least once a month. The coolant that used to be called Freon, I don't know what it's called now, that's in a modern air conditioner, that is also its only lubricant. That's all it's got. So the O-rings, the seals, the bearings, everything like that only gets lubricated when the system is running. So run the air conditioner a couple times a month. If you're storing the tractor for a long period, for example, the entire winter season, the owner's manual says to overinflate the tires slightly, and really, if possible, take the weight of the tractor off of the tires by jacking the tractor up and putting blocks under the axles. And the reason is you'll get flat spots in the tires. You'll be driving it, next time you in the spring, and it'll go, and it'll well, just what it sounds like. It'll have flat spots. They will eventually even back out. Really, that's about it. I hope I was helpful here, and if you have questions, put them in the comments. Ask me questions, make comments. You can even say, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're wrong." Just write it down. I'll read it. But yeah, ask questions if you have any, and I will make my best effort to answer them for you. Mike Schrampke with Larry Stove Sand Equipment, America's largest selling Coyote dealer. Thanks for watching the video, and what? Please subscribe.